You have now entered the Pretty Tough. Welcome to the Pretty Tough Room podcast. I'm your host, Sadell P. And today's conversation is accountability and responsibility. Now, accountability is accepting responsibility for our own acts and our behaviors, while responsibility is pretty much the duties and the tasks of something and it's the state of being accountable, right? And accountability and responsibility, they go hand in hand because everyone is responsible for something, maybe even someone. And accountability is accepting the responsibility of that something or someone. Accountability oftentimes means that we have to admit when we make a mistake. And no one likes to admit that they were wrong or admit that they didn't do something right. But there is always accountability in something that wasn't completed or in responsibilities that we have that we lack in completing. Um, when we talk about accountability, a lot of people look at it as they perceive it to be negative, but it doesn't have to be. We hear that we learn from our mistakes, and this is true. If we never make a mistake, though, then there's little room for growth in those areas that we are accountable to. So we don't have to look at it as a negative thing. We should be looking at accountability as growth opportunities. If I didn't complete a responsibility of mine, then I have to sit down, or at least I should sit down and look at, where did I go wrong in this, or what mistakes did I make, and take accountability. Like, okay, I did make a mistake. I didn't do something right. I didn't turn that in on time. And being able to be okay with being accountable for that so that you can learn what not to do next time or how to do something differently so that your responsibilities or your tasks that you were supposed to complete that didn't get completed can be completed next time. It doesn't condemn you to be held accountable or to take accountability. It's actually accountability. When you take accountability, it actually can develop us in our responsibilities. It can help us to be more mature, to make better choices. So, even though sometimes it's hard to hear that we are held accountable for something that we didn't do, we understand that accountability is a willingness to accept responsibility to those things that we didn't accomplish when we were supposed to. Uh, Accountability also builds trust. So if you are able to take accountability for something that you didn't get done in time, then the person or persons that were counting on you to complete the task, the job at work, or maybe even with respect to your children, you didn't provide something that you should have. If you take accountability for that, then it lets the other person trust you that, okay, this person understands and accepts that they didn't do this thing correctly, and because they're taking accountability for it, then I'm more susceptible to continue to give you those responsibilities or tasks to do, because I know that you're going to try to be better, or at least that you will sit back, and if I need to come to you to talk to you about something that wasn't completed, that you will take ownership of that and most times when we take ownership of something, we don't just take ownership and leave it alone. We don't just take accountability for something we didn't do and be like, okay, I didn't do that and keep it moving. Most times, people who take accountability and ownership will try to, find other ways to make it right or and to grow and to be better next time. Responsibilities can be shared, but accountabilities can't be. We can share responsibilities of parenting. We can share responsibilities of tasks in the workplace. We can share responsibilities in paying our bills. But with respect to accountability, we can't share that because not everybody accepts accountability or takes accountability for things that they're responsible for. Some people aren't held accountable, right? So it's it's not fun to have difficult conversations when you got to hold somebody accountable. That's pretty tough when you have to go to someone and say, hey, you didn't complete this, or the expectation for this specific thing hasn't been met. So some people shy away from even holding people accountable because they are fearful to have difficult conversations, holding people accountable, because it sometimes feels like a confrontation, and it really doesn't have to be. If we address the performance issue with respect to accountability, dealing with that situation, you know, when it needs to be dealt with and not letting it linger, maybe people would be more susceptible to take accountability in accepting responsibility for things that they may have done or said or didn't do or didn't say. It's it would be beneficial to consider a person's feelings when you have to hold them accountable. Sometimes that is one of the reasons why people don't hold other people accountable because they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But not understanding that not holding a person accountable who has responsibilities in certain things only hurts that person, because then how will they learn? How will they grow from, doing or not doing, the thing which you're trying to hold them accountable for? Responsibilities are endless. We have responsibilities in everyday life, and we have to be mindful in when we accept responsibilities that we don't just automatically have like responsibility to ourselves, but when we accept certain responsibilities, if we're able to communicate to who or what we're responsible to, that hey, as these are some things that I'm responsible for. I'm not sure how I can, complete this test, or I'm not sure how to follow through with these responsibilities, and asking for help, before it gets to the point where we procrastinate because we don't understand, or we procrastinate because we don't want the responsibility. Being honest that hey, I can't do this, I won't do this, so that we don't have to turn around and you know be held accountable. We can, as I was saying before, how we share responsibilities. We can sit down and talk about the responsibilities that I might be stronger in certain areas of being responsible as a parent than I am with being responsible as a, coworker. Because as a parent, there are just some responsibilities as a parent that you just can't not do, or that you shouldn't not do. You should make sure that your children have the basic needs, not just, of course, love and care, but making sure that they're fed, and that they have appropriate clothing for the weather, not the latest Air Jordans that come out, or the nice designer bags and jewelry. Those are wants, but the things that they need to have, a jacket, when it's cold out, or umbrella when it rains, things like that. Those are things that as parents we have responsibilities in providing for our children. And when we don't, if we don't provide a jacket for our children when it's cold outside and then they get sick, and we're like, this kid is sick, I got to take him to the hospital, or I need to get some medication. We have to take accountability because we have to accept responsibility that because we didn't provide a jacket for our child in the colder weather, they got sick. It's not always like do or die with accountability. It's just being willing to accept that we fell down at some point, or we lacked at some point, we didn't get something done at some point, and then going back around to that thing and finding out, at what point did I, not do what I need to do, what point can, and then where can I go with that to make sure I don't do that again, or that I'm better in that area. Read somewhere that if you are responsible, then you must respond. And if you're accountable, then you must give account for what happened. And I thought that's good because responsibility is you responding to tasks or duties, and accountability is giving account for why that thing wasn't done. And so an example that was given, I believe, was that a fireman was responsible for extinguishing the fire, but the arson investigator was accountable for the investigation results. And it just wrapped this whole accountability and responsibility topic up for me. The mere fact that if we could just remember, being responsible is when you respond, and being accountable means you must give an account. And if you take nothing else from this conversation and understanding accountability and responsibility, take hold of that, because we all do have responsibilities that we have to respond to, because they are things that need to be done, or things that we are responsible for. And when we don't do those things, when we don't follow through with the responsibilities, then we have to give an account for why we didn't, complete the task or do the things that we had said we would be responsible for, or that we were given responsibility of. Well, that's it for today. I want to thank each and every one of you who join every week. You're really appreciated. I pray nothing but blessings over each of you who support the Pretty Tough Room. Please go ahead, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook pages at the Pretty Tough Room. And remember, tough times never last, but tough people do.